Hello, my name is Darcelyn Woods, and this is for SPED 501. Today I will be teaching Kylie Woods about 4 instructional strategies. We are going to talk about direct instruction, backwards chaining, forwards chaining, and the Teacch method. So the first method that I would like to talk about is direct instruction. Direct instruction can be any instruction that is led by the teacher. edglossary.org defines it as structured, sequenced, and led by teachers. So a common idea of direct instruction would be lecturing, having the teacher up in front of the classroom and teaching the students a concept, and the students sitting there silently and taking notes or doing whatever they can to remember the content that's taught by the teacher. Direct instruction could also be how I am teaching Kylie Woods about 4 instructional strategies. But direct instruction can also be playing a video, playing a song, or singing a song with the students, or reading a book to the student. And it pretty much can be any instruction that's chosen by the teacher as well as taught by the teacher, which is why reading a book or singing a song or listening to a song or watching a movie can be direct instruction as well. So the second instructional strategy that I'm going to talk about today is backwards chaining. Backwards chaining, simply put, is a teaching technique in which the student works backwards from a goal. So Dr. Kathy Pratt defines backwards chaining like this. It's when the student is taught something or a concept, and they're taught by starting with the last step. So in order to move on to the next step, which is actually the previous step according to the sequence, the final step must be mastered. So this is a great technique because the student is actually aware of the goal or the finished product in which they are working for. So so they know what their finished product is going to look like, so they know when they're done. The next method that I'm going to talk about today is forwards chaining. Now, forwards chaining is the opposite of backwards chaining. Since backwards chaining, we started at the end product and worked backwards. Forwards chaining, we're going to start at the first product or at the first step and work forward. Forward chaining is also known as working in chronological or sequence order. Again, you're going to start at the first step, and then you're going to start progressing towards the last step. And to reiterate, you can't move on to the next step unless the student has first mastered the first step. The final method that I'm going to talk about today is the Teacch method, which is spelled Teacch method. And this method, as defined by Dr. Kara Hume, is a set of structured teaching strategies which are based off of understanding of how autism plays a role in learning, thinking, and the behavior of an individual. So instead of noticing how autism plays a role in education and kind of figuring out a way to get around that hindrance, then we're highlighting the aspects of autism. So there's 5 different components of the Teacch method, and that's physical structure, schedules, work systems, routines and visual strategies, and visual structure and materials. So there's a lot of different ways to incorporate the Teacch method within your lesson planning or within your teaching. One way would be to write a schedule at the beginning of the day so the students know what's going to happen next and they know what to look forward to. This could be really beneficial for students who have anxiety and they want to know when lunch is or when recess is or when they get to go home and see mom or dad. They can look at the schedule and see, okay, I have to complete these tasks and then I get to go home and see mom or dad. Another way to incorporate the Teacch method within teaching is to color code. You can color code anything, or you could even color code your schedule. This way the students can easily spot when recess or lunch is, or fun extracurricular activities are, or even whenever it's time for reading or math. They know what's going to happen and it's easy for them to identify what's going to happen. And another way to incorporate the Teacch method within your classroom is actually have the students check off when a task is finished. This way the students can really follow along with the schedule of the day to help with anxiety or just to put the students at ease and let them know what's going on. So today I talked about 4 different instructional strategies. The first that I talked about was direct instruction. The second was backwards chaining. The third was forwards chaining. And the last instructional strategy was the Teacch method. I taught them to Kylie Woods. Kylie Woods, do you have any questions for me?
Okay, so what's another example of backwards chaining?
Great. An example of backwards chaining, which can be used in a life skills class or anywhere just to help the student learn how to do stuff by starting at the finished product and working backwards, is teaching them how to make a bed. So you can start by having the bed completely made, and then you can instruct the student to go remove a pillow from the bed. Once the student removes a pillow, you say, okay, now take off the comforter. Once that's been completed, okay, now take off the sheet. This way the student sees the finished product of the bed being made and also recognizes each step as it's being taught backwards.
Okay, so I can see where that would benefit. So now how would forward chaining benefit, or how would that be taught?
That would be taught in a sequence order or in chronological order. So a great example of forwards chaining is working with the ABCs. Another important highlight to notice about backwards chaining and forwards chaining is the word chaining, which means that each step is taught together. So you don't teach a step, forget it, move on to the next. You teach a step, reiterate it as you move on to the next, and incorporate both together. For example, in forwards chaining, teaching the ABCs, a student can learn first the letter A, and once the letter A has been mastered, that student is then introduced to the letter B while reiterating the letter A. So the steps would look like this. Letter A, step 2 would be letter A and letter B, step 3 would be letter A, letter B, letter C, and it would move on through in chronological and sequence order.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.